What a wonderful push back in time and into the present. Thank you all for being here. Again, my name is Alejandro Villalpando. I'm that Alex that was referred to earlier. And I just wanted to welcome the compañeras from UCLA, Flori and Lacey here, who just walked in. Both because they were mentioned or about to be mentioned, but because of the work that they've done here in LA also to do this, right? And I think that's the beautiful part, that so many of us have contributed to this question, right? Like, or to this matter, whether here, whether formalized in the academy or not, right? Like, I want to give a shout out to Victor right here, artist who has done so much cultural work and cultural production work outside of the academy, right? Like to really ground our transnational connections and histories to the Isthmus and our realities here as diasporic Central Americans in Los Angeles. So I don't want to take too much time here, so I just have a picture of 3 slides. It was hard, 3 flyers. It was hard to decide what to put up here, and I think that's a good thing. One of the things that I see as my role, or what I've contributed, is to think about community and collective Central American studies, and really Central American studies as a praxis. Not just an intellectual kind of exercise that exists in the academy or within classrooms, although that is very important, but to see it kind of expressed and presented and practiced outside in the world. And what does that mean? That's kind of nebulous, right? So on my journey through all of this began when I was looking to do an M.A. program. It started earlier, right? Like I was connected to my family in Guatemala, who were connected to different things in Guatemala that I would eventually learn about. And I went to undergrad and studied history, and I'm sitting with my dear friend Carla Cativo, another person that could and will be sharing some stuff later, who continues to do this work. And we were just talking and reminiscing about this class we took on Latin American revolutions of the 20th century. And so there we learned a lot about Central America. And I remember seeing a lot of names of places that I had passed through as a little kid on a bus driving from the airport La Aurora in Guatemala down to Mazatenango, where my family resides. And I was like, oh man, this is like real. This is very real to me, right? And so it was a really impactful moment for me. And moving forward, I had a decision to make when I went back to grad school. It was apply to UCLA or Cal State LA. And so I looked at the course offerings in Latin American Studies at UCLA, and no offense to all y'all who love that place or work at that place, but I was not impressed. And there was a class that really jumped out at me in the class offerings here at Cal State LA. It was Central American Experiences in the U.S. And I was like, I don't even know what that means fully, but I want to know. And I knew that that's what drew me here. And so that was my journey coming over here and learning, right? And of course, after that, I go off to get a PhD in ethnic studies, which really expands my understanding of the world and the relationality of myself, of my people, of my relationship to Mexico, my relationship to the Isthmus, within kind of this interdiscipline that comes out of rebellion, right? Or that comes out of protest. And so moving forward, I finally formalize my understanding of myself, not just as a student of this political kind of movement that gets a lot of notoriety, like abolitionism, right? Or to be an abolitionist, right? Especially in the era of Black Lives Matter. That became a popular term and an idea. And so I knew that was where my heart was always, right? Growing up where I grew up, I felt an antagonism to prisons. I felt an antagonism to the police. I should not say past tense. I feel an antagonism to police. I feel an antagonism to prisons and any kind of carceral approaches to governing the world. And that gave me more texture to my understanding of the world. And as an organizer, thinking about how I could apply the things that I wanted to change. So what you have here is 3 events that we've done at Patria. Patria is a coffee shop owned by an Afro-Mestizo Guatemalan man by the name of Jeffrey Martinez. He has opened the space up to us to do community events there. One of these events was with Paula Ayala here, who is an alum of Cal State LA as well. And it was a transnational offering here of the graffiti and hip hop culture that arises out of the isthmus, and we did a community screening. And it was beautiful, right? A lot of hiccups, but beautiful, right? Because it's a learning experience of how to do these things, right? And because we're connected to community, community contributed, right? Like to help us deal with said hiccups, right? Nonetheless, the thing went off and it was a beautiful event. And we wanted to make an ode to the place that we were doing this, which was Compton, right? So for those of you that are familiar, right, Straight Outta Compton, right, is the album of NWA, right, is a very core kind of association to the area. So we presented that. This is a much more somber, but also an important part of the praxis, in my opinion, of Central American Studies. My dear colleague here, Dr. Floridalma Bosch Lopez, right, and her community, La Comunidad Ishim, organized a vigil and an altar-making space at Patria when the spate of Guatemalan, Mayan, and indigenous children were being killed in U.S. custody. And it was really a beautiful event, painful, but it was an example of what I think Central American Studies can be and has been by so many, which is how do we cultivate ourselves as whole beings and think about something like grief as part of our praxis, right? Grief as something that we need to talk about and process as a people, as a community. And so that was a wonderful example. And again, Jeffrey opened those doors for us, or for people, very quickly, right? And then finally, again, when Dr. Bosch Lopez was here at Cal State LA, we organized a couple of events. One of the events was a Beyond White and Blue, and we tried to expand the understanding of what Central American Studies, what Central American communities are, and it was focusing, we invited 5 community members who were Afro-descended or Black Central Americans, and all women, and they spoke in front of a community group of over probably like 120, 150 folks in Compton on a corner on a small piece of grass, right? So we took the class out of that. In addition to this, we created flyers where we printed them like pictures and handed them out at a grocery store across the street in Compton. And one of the things that really felt good for us as we did that with our students was that people were like, oh, where is this, at the university? No, it's right here, in your community, right? And so people just were like almost taken aback. A few people were taken aback that this was here. And so it's not a unidirectional relationship, right? And I think that's the other part, right? Like it's a relationship with Patria Coffee that is full of dignity and kind of care. When we were doing this work, some issues came up. Coffee shops are notorious as sites of gentrification in our communities. And there was pushback and there was critique that we were hearing about Patria Coffee, and we wanted to clear it up or assist in clearing some of those things up. So I'll end with this. Myself and another one of our students who was part of the group that put together these events assisted in writing a mission statement for Patria Coffee that is prominently displayed in their shop. And this is what the mission statement says. Firstly and foremost, we acknowledge our positions as guests on occupied Tongva land. Patria Coffee is a space intended for communities of color to share a safe place, free of criminalization and punitive treatment that is relational and not simply transactional. We aim to uplift the beauty and richness of our cultural identity while offering a dignified coffee experience and quality, respectful of the existing Compton community structure and understandings. We celebrate the gifts and creativity of our people and facilitate dialogue, including events that bring us together, operating under the value that people matter more than profits. The most beautiful coffee is grown by Black and brown hands. We aim to honor their labor by presenting to you the best that we can. So, that's just a little bit about the praxis that we've been doing in the community and how it's collective and united and tries to emphasize and model that for folks who may not be familiar with this field, but actually are probably experts in it, right? And we don't do that necessarily in classrooms. We do that outside. So that's been my little contribution here. So thank you so much.